Hello and welcome back, everyone, to Digimon World 3 on Rocket Rabbit Commentaries. And in this episode, we are going to go over to Leomon's gym in order to do our first training session, where I get to explain one of the major exploits that we're going to be doing. Now, I am playing this on an emulator, so the big exploit that we're doing is right there. We're save stating before we actually commit to our training, very specifically so that we can reset if we need to. Now, we don't need maximum stats from this training, but we do actually need triple success into a perfect success. This isn't that isn't maximum stats are. Maximum stats for 10 TP worth is, let's see, 16 times 3 plus 20, which should be 68. Yeah, so we're currently at -2. Alright.
What a great way to remind young players to, when you're done with your game, hey, it's a beautiful day out. Be active. Jump rope. Go for a walk.
Build that speed stat so you can
Play
absolutely
soccer.
break the combat system in real life as well. Alright, so the reason why we decided to spend our first 10 TP on speed, Kumamon has got the problem of having extremely good strength growth, but extremely weak speed growth. And what that ends up translating to is that if you don't spend TP into speed, Kumon's going to actually be slower than a majority of the boss fights that we have to go through in order to actually clear the story. And speed. Okay, are you familiar with the concept, Mr. Cloud, of the speed spiral of death?
No, I've never heard of the speed spiral.
Okay. In classical RPGs, specifically turn-based RPGs, the speed stat is either the best stat in the game or just under the best stat in the game. And in this case, it is in fact the best stat in the game by a fucking mile. Because, although this is definitely a turn-based system, it's not one-to-one. What is happening behind the scenes specifically is our speed stat is being compared to our opponent's speed stat. And if our speed stat is greater, then after the first back and forth, we can actually have multiple turns to our opponent's one turn. Because with the player, we only get 2 turns as opposed to anything higher than that. But 2 turns in this game is actually significantly important because, well, item usage takes a turn. Buff skills take a turn. Every action that you take, that advances the turn state, takes a turn. So if you get 2 turns to your opponent's 1, you can have like 2 normal attacks, 2 attack abilities, 2 uses of items, 2 ditch evolve attempts, And it's really important to actually to hold that over your opponents, because for a majority of the end of the game, we're going to be less powerful than the enemies that we're actually fighting, specifically the bosses that we're fighting. The game, very much wants you to actually have all of your partners and attempting to raise them all up at the same time. Doing so triples your playtime, so don't do it.
So just concentrate on one Digimon, max out his speed stat, and then you'll basically have like multiple Digimon stacked in one because you get to take extra turns.
Well, you won't have multiple Digimon, but you will have multiple turns, and that's usually better anyway.
Remove 5 +1/+1 counters from the Sage of Hours. Take an extra turn after this one.
Yes, except I get to do it. Every other turn. So,
Yep, and so did that guy.
Have you ever actually beat an extra turns player, Mr. Cloud?
No. If somebody's using extra turns against me, they probably know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Dude, Simic, Sage of Hours, is a bastard child.
I am familiar with that. Oh, also, the bunch of cash we picked up earlier, that's also where the Gabawon card for this side quest shows up. Now, this side quest that we're actually doing here is actually extremely missable. And, it's not missable, to be perfectly honest, because that implies it's permanently missable, and it's not really permanently missable. But it is very ignorable. But what we're doing specifically is we're attempting to, ingratiate ourselves in the player base, specifically to get information on how to advance into the card game. because believe it or not, the card game is how we're going to be doing a majority of our off-screen grinding. Unlike Final Fantasy VIII, we're doing a lot of the off-screen grinding with the card game is in order to get magic stocks, which is a game that I will be eventually doing for the channel. He said, lying to himself. I have so much fucking exposition to do. Hyde tells us here by giving him the Gabumon card that Veemon is the Digimon that actually has actually got the tree boots that he was using in order to try and sell the Cardamon. But he doesn't tell us how to go get him. So what he tells us instead is, hey, go where a bunch of people gather in order to get rumors about it. This is Leomon. He is literally the strongest Digimon that is available for us to fight right now, and as such, we're not going to be fighting him. No.
Run.
We did manage to successfully run away. If we could successfully defeat Leomon, he would actually be totally worth grinding on right now. But we can't, so away we go.
It's too tough. Cut your losses, turn tail and run. Don't get a game over.
Yeah. And for the record, getting a game over at this point in the game is really fucking easy. Because since we're actually doing a lot of scouting for side quests, we're going to be in areas that are a little bit more powerful than what we are, technically. Specifically because until Kuomon hits 5, he, doesn't have enough speed on his own in order to get multiple turns out. Although he can two-shot virtually everything that we come across, except for the end of area mons like Leomon and I think it's Leomon and Tyranno. Well, Tyranno and Tricera are at the very end of this sector as well. So you'll end up doing a lot of what feels like superfluous grinding that turns out to not be superfluous before you're done with this game. And to be perfectly honest, when as a child and as a teenager, it was one of the more engaging activities for me as a child and teenager. Attempting to grind in these older turn-based RPGs in order to better my mons and get specific Digivolutions or techniques with Digimon that I wanted to use. Kuomon brings it to an extreme because of his slow experience growth, but it still is honestly a pretty good time, especially with one of the big things that I've not yet commented on. The soundtrack in Digimon World 3 is just above average enough to where it's really good throughout the entire game whilst you're, jamming out to it. However, there are a couple of pieces that are overplayed, and unfortunately, one piece in particular that, although is still actually good, is overplayed way too fucking much. And we'll start experiencing that towards the middle half of the game.
Well, it's good that the songs that you get tired of most quickly are not the songs that start the game.
Right.
Because that would make do-overs and repeat playthroughs that much more difficult.
Indeed. Anyway, we're advancing into Shell Beach in order to do the other main side quest. Also, we have more Vegemon to kill.
Let's hit the battle. Give 'em Shell.
So, you were almost completely blind to Digimon in its entirety, right?
I mean, not blind, but more like just ignorant and outside the circle.
Okay. So, you know how Pokemon evolutions tend to, be slight alterations and, the aging process, as it were, for when it comes to art design, right?
Yeah, like the maturation cycle of an organism. Yeah.
Well, Digimon tries to do that in between stages, but for full lines, it doesn't actually do that. So, what I would like to do, Mr. Cloud, is I would like for you to guess what type of creature Kuomon is going to digivolve into the first time we actually get the Digivolution for him. I'll even give you the first letter of its name. Okay.
Okay.
The first letter of its name is G.
G. Get Goose.
He's not going to become a goose, no.
Okay. Gecko.
He's not going to become a gecko. Although Geckomon is in this game, he's not playable, though.
Grizzly bear.
Yes! Gumon is going to become a grizzly bear.
Yeah. I love it.
Okay. There are so many other fucking internal systems to go over. And the thing is, if you know about the internal systems in Digimon World 3, to be perfectly honest, playing through this game is definitely a good time. The issue is the game does very, very little to actually tell you what the fuck its internal systems are. Much like Yu-Gi-Oh! Forbidden Memories has got the internal fusion system that if you do not know how it works, you will just never get past Act 2. But in this game, you can actually go through a majority of the game, specifically the European, specifically the American release, without ever knowing what the internal systems of the game really are. Because for the first half of the game, you're both a bit too powerful and not in enough danger. I know it's really weird for me to have that kind of point, because I've spent a large portion of the last several playthroughs complaining specifically about difficulty spikes in games with regards to enemy density and familiarity. However, Digimon World 3 is in this weird zone where you are both way too weak at the very start and way too strong. Because you only have regardless of what Digimon you decide to pick out for your dedicated starter, you are always on the verge of upwards of about 3 hits before you absolutely have to go home and attempt to rest at the end. And it doesn't honestly matter what Digimon you pick for that, with the exception of Patamon. But then, once you actually get your first several levels, you become so much significantly stronger than those around you that you want to immediately push forward, only to have this yo-yo happen again over and over as you're attempting to go naturally through the story.
Well, I'm comparing this game to like Paper Mario. Like Paper Mario, you only have 10 hit points. Enemies are typically only dealing like 1 or 2 damage at a time, so you're not going to be getting game overs that often. But you are fragile.
Yes.
However, that fragility is offset by the marginal detriment of making mistakes, blunders, or just not playing the game correctly. And then, as every mature player should know, yes, the game is going to get harder as it goes along, which means that the probability of getting a game over is going to steadily decrease, at least on a normal cycle. On an abnormal cycle, you run into the difficulty spikes problem, where the fucking game designer just decides to throw a curveball at you and it tends to piss off players because the rate at which you're getting game overs is not conducive to the stage of the game that you're at. This game I can see, like, okay, you can pick any Digimon. All 3 of them, like you said, they can each take like up to 3 hits before they have to heal.
But yeah.
They're relatively strong in battle, so you can defeat Digimon and get experience. But there is the ever-present threat of running out of hit points and then getting knocked out of the game.
It's why they want you to actually run multiple Digimon. That way, you have a backup Digimon that you can attempt to run away from a fight if you need to. Problem is, if that ever comes up, your backup Digimon likely isn't going to get a turn, because that's how the speed spiral of death works. Oh, I thought I actually explained.
Who is our...
I thought I actually explained the speed spiral of death. I will do so in the next part. Be safe, everybody.